Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to give everyone a couple more minutes to log on, and then we will get started. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I'm really excited to be running this webinar and to talk a little bit of social media strategy with all of you. My name is Tessa, and I am the CEO and social media rockstar here at Mad Media. I'm going to start by going through a few housekeeping items, and then we'll dig right into this presentation, as I know your time is valuable, and I want you to get the most out of this 30-minute session that you possibly can. So a few things to note. If you have any questions during this session, you have two options. You can use the chat function on the left-hand side of the screen, and we'll make sure that all those questions are answered before we sign off here. Or you can actually tweet any questions as well using the hashtag #GetSocialWithMM. We also encourage you to share, and tweet any and all of your favorite takeaways from today's session. Our team will actually be monitoring Twitter, and we'll be able to chat right back with you. Also, at the end of the webinar today, we have a few super special offers for you. So once we wrap up, you'll actually get an email with the recording of this webinar, the slide deck, some extra resources for you that we think you might like to take a look at, and then all of the details around that super special offers that I will get to at the end. So I think that's it for housekeeping. Let's get going and dive right in. So who we are, I would like to start off with giving you a little bit of background about Mad Media in case you don't already know or aren't familiar with us. Mad Media is a social media marketing agency, and our aim is to demystify social media for business and personal brands. We offer custom social media strategies, full social media management services, social media for special events, and more recently, we've actually started offering workshops as well. We're a virtual and remote workforce, and we work with an array of clients from smaller brands and entrepreneurs to mid-sized businesses in B2B and B2C. It's an ever-changing industry, and it's a really, really fun space to work in, for sure. And now I want to take a second to find a little bit about the crowd that we have here today. You're all here to talk social media strategy, obviously. So let's start by finding out what types of businesses you're all running or representing. So we're just going to run a quick poll. Tell us which one of these fits you best. Are you a solopreneur? So far, anyway, just getting started. Are you working in an organization where social media is part of your job? Does your organization not have social media, but you know that you need it? Or are you interested in working in the social media industry? So I'll give everyone a second to answer here. Awesome. Okay, so lots of solopreneurs in the crowd here today, so we can kind of see that. So that's good to see. No matter where you are, this is obviously going to be really useful for you. Everybody needs a strategy. So let's dive right in and take a look at that. So the world today is changing. How we connect is changing, and it's changing fast. Here you can see a picture of the Pope's election in 2005 and then again in 2013. I'm sure you can see the difference. People are online now more than ever and at an exponentially increasing rate. Today, 50% of Canadians from newborns to seniors are online. Social networks are a big part of where they're spending the time. Statistics show that many of us are checking in on social networks multiple times a day, as I'm sure you can probably personally attest to. So this really begs the question, how can you get in front of all those people that you ultimately want to connect with and sell to? Social media without a strategy is not completely worthless, but it's simply not the best way to operate. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. And if you are the champion of your brand and approving the time and money spent in this area, you should care why you're doing this and how to do it effectively. If you are the one that has to get budget approval for this, you're going to need the strategy to prove the value and to show off your plan. Don't go into this blindly. Don't throw spaghetti against the wall. Start with a strategy. So what is a social media strategy anyway, really? It's a document essentially that outlines the why, the where, and the how. In this case, we're talking about social media marketing, so it shakes down to a few key components that we're going to go through here today. Firstly, you want to ensure you have a mission statement. This is your why you're doing this. You also want to define your brand, and in this case, tone is what you really want to capture. Who is your brand and how do they sound? You want to have a look at your target market, which you probably have already defined elsewhere if you've done other forms of marketing for your business, but it's really important to look at this again in the context of social media. It will shape your plan for success. Probably the biggest and the most important piece of this is your competitive analysis. A lot of people skip this part, but you'd be at a loss if you did. This gives you such valuable insight into your industry and what works and what doesn't. Looking at this really helps you start a few steps ahead of the game, which is always a good place to be. Once you've taken a look at all of that information, you'll be able to start to form your plan. You'll select what platforms you're going to invest in. You'll decide what types of content you're going to share as part of your mix, and then how often you're going to post. And then you want to finish all of this off with a plan on how you're going to evaluate your success. There are other really important tips and tricks and golden rules to success on social media, but that we are not covering today. That is not part of your social media strategy. That's a part of how you work. Areas like how you manage your time, how to write great copy, how to run contests or campaigns, and so forth. If you're going to be managing social media, this stuff is super important as well, but it doesn't actually live within your strategy. If you're looking for some more information on that kind of thing, we can connect afterwards. There's lots of information on our blog. You can attend one of our workshops. We'll give you some more information about that later. But just so you know, this is where our focus is today, is just on the strategy. So now that you know what a social media strategy is, I'd love to know where you guys are all at with this. So let's take another quick poll. Do you have a super cohesive social media strategy already put together that you feel confident in? Do you have a really good first draft that you've started, but you're looking to refine it? Do you have that social media strategy all up in your head, but you haven't actually put it together on paper yet? Are you doing the social, but without any definition as to how or why? Or have you just not started at all yet? Awesome. Okay, so it looks like the majority of us today are doing the social, which is a good first step. At least you're out there making those first strides, but really need to spend a little bit of time in putting together the how and why and shaping your plan for success. So that's awesome. Wherever you are today, that's totally fine. We're going to help you refine what you have. So let's dive into the first component here, which is our mission statement. Like any business or endeavor for that matter, we need to start with a mission statement. Why are you on social media? Why are you even bothering? This is a really useful thing to present to your executive team as well, to get their buy-in and to demonstrate your reasons. This should be short and sweet, 1 to 3 sentences maximum, that answers the question, why are you investing in social media marketing? The next step we have to look at is tone. Tone is really important to define, especially if you're going to have more than one person working in your social media, or if you're going to outsource to a team like ours. You want your brand to have a cohesive feel to it, so it doesn't vary person to person. And the only way to do this is to define it. For this section, you really want to consider how your brand makes people feel. That's what it's really all about. I like to think of your brand like a person for this exercise and think in examples. It makes it a little bit easier. Who do you know that embodies what you want your brand to sound like? It could be you, it could be somebody else. What kind of words or phrases would your brand use? Do you use slang or keep it super professional? What about swearing? Is profanity off the table or can you use it for effect? Are you bubbly and happy or are you cool and chill? Every brand is going to be a little bit different here, so there's no right or wrong. The one tip I will give you is don't be afraid to relax a little bit with social media. Social media is just that, it's social. This is not a press release, so you don't have to be super formal all the time. Whatever your tone or style, just remember to keep it really conversational. So the next step here is target market. This is a super important thing to review before you begin any type of business or marketing efforts. You need to know who you're trying to reach, who your ideal customers are, and who is most likely to buy from you. That will really help you determine the best way to connect with them and what types of content they're likely to consume and how to get them to convert. The ultimate goal, of course. You can define this relentlessly, and it's never a bad exercise to do. But if you're a small business or you're just starting out, don't get overwhelmed. Just start with the basics. Use characteristics like age, gender, geolocation, or income level to help define your market. I really like to build out personas when doing this exercise. I find it very helpful for myself and easier just to wrap my brain around. So what that means is you give your ideal customer a name. You give them a job, a salary, an age. You might write down where they like to shop, how they dress, and what they care about. What technology they use, what kind of family they have. There are lots of different ways to build this out. And keep in mind, you're most likely going to have more than one target market. So build out multiple personas. Again, we don't have to get too complex here. Just start small. But if you're like us, for example, maybe you serve small to mid-sized businesses, and generally those types of businesses have a certain annual revenue or budget to be able to invest in this. Their marketing team is of a certain size, and the person in marketing that is going to hire us has certain characteristics that would help us identify them and connect with them to start conversations. Maybe we call this person Amanda, and we note that she is probably in her mid-30s, young enough to get that social matters, but not as fluent in it as she knows she could be, and also probably doesn't have the time within her role to manage it herself. She wants to outsource this. She doesn't have the time to micromanage. She wants someone she can trust to produce results that she can present to her execs to prove that this investment is worth it. We also serve another totally different market, the entrepreneurs and startups. These are people that are just getting their new brands or business ideas off the ground and want to manage their own social. They can't afford to pay for somebody to manage their social wholly, but they just don't really know how to get started. And that's where we come in to help. They come to us to get custom social media strategies done, or maybe to attend a social media 101 or 102 workshop to help them build on their own knowledge and set them up to execute it themselves. We'll call this guy Chris. The content that Amanda versus Chris is going to want to consume is a little bit different. How we might reach them, it's different as well. Amanda's going to likely want to see case studies that she can present to her executives that we put together based on past work with other clients where we talk about results. She's also maybe going to appreciate that we share industry knowledge around the marketing landscape today so that we have a little bit of thought leadership there. Chris probably loves our tips and tricks types of content since he's going to be executing this himself, sharing examples maybe of how he can improve his social media efforts. You see, it's really important to define who these people are before we can figure out how to reach them. The next phase here is to look at our competition. This is probably the most time-consuming part of building your social media strategy, but it is definitely worth doing. You want to spend some time taking a peek at what your competitors are doing on social media. Just start Googling. Find out what platforms they've set up shop on, and then take a deeper look through those profiles. How many followers do they have? What types of content are they sharing? Is anyone even engaging with it? Are they having conversations on social media? What can you see is working well, and what can you see is clearly not? Make note of all of this. It'll be important to learn from and revisit later on as you're building out your plan. So once you've got all those previous sections put together and some research under your belt, it's time for you to figure out what your game plan is going to be. You've figured out who your target market is, and knowing that, you can start to figure out what platforms they're more likely to be using. For instance, the younger millennials are more likely to be on Instagram or Snapchat, whereas older generations are more likely to be on Facebook. Business people are probably heavier LinkedIn users. Depending on the industry that they work in, they might be Twitter users as well. Stay-at-home moms are probably big Pinterest users. The graphic here will help you give a little bit of insight into the stats on each platform, so you can get a bit of a breakdown on what each platform does and who plays where. You'll all get a copy of this afterwards as well, so you can take a bit of a deeper dive. So now that you've narrowed it down a little, look at your competitive analysis and see which platforms all of your competitors are on and what's working well for them. That's a great place to start. Are there any that were clearly falling flat? Skip those. Don't waste your energy. It's never a bad thing to have presence everywhere, but to do something right requires time and energy, and time is money, as we all know. So spend that money wisely and start small. Ideally, I'd recommend starting with 2 to 3 platforms to kind of get you going. Through your regular evaluation with KPIs, which we'll touch on later, you'll be able to see as you progress what's worth continuing and how to trim the fat and cut out what's just not working for you. Keep in mind, a platform does deserve about a good 6-month trial before you can really say either way. And that goes for social media in general. It is a long game, so don't lose hope if you don't see success overnight. It's just not how it works. So once you know where you're going to set up shop, you need to spend some time considering what you're going to share. Keep in mind, this is likely going to need to be a bit of a mix. It's not as simple as picking one thing, especially when you're just starting out. You need to be trying a lot and playing around a lot. Have fun with it and learn as you go. Consider things like what types of content will work best. How do you know that? A hot tip here, a great place to look would be, of course, your competitive analysis. See what's working for them and what's not. That will give you a good place to start from. There are definitely some best practices that vary channel to channel that you should consider as well. You can get some guidance on this by tuning into some social media resources like blogs or webinars or social channels, or simply doing some research into the brands whose content that you really like to engage with and brainstorm from there. You also want to consider, where are you going to find this content? Are you going to create it yourself? If so, do you have the right resources in place to do that? And another hot tip for you here, not all content should be your own, which is really good news for you because sharing someone else's stuff is less work than creating your own. You want to, again, find the right mix here. Make sure your content is as visual as possible. That is almost always more effective. Share content that others have created and tag them so that they know that you did. This will help you build relationships with other brands as well. Hopefully soon they'll be sharing your content too. It also and ultimately shows your followers that you're not all about the sale. You're about giving them value, and that is key. I get asked a lot whether or not it's good form to share a salesy post, and I say yes, but. Yes, you can, and you should do it. You are there with something to offer, so it's fair game for you to make sure that that be known. That's fine. But don't let that be all you do. Always with content, you need to focus on how you can add value to your followers. That's really the name of the game here, and that's why they're going to stay tuned into your brand. So the next big question on everyone's minds is, when do I post and how often do I do it? The eternal question. There is a lot of debate around this, and various experts have various opinions. I did find a really good blog post the other day when looking into this that summarizes a bunch of things, different findings from different companies and various social media platforms. It does a lot of the work for us in aggregating all of that in one spot. So we're actually going to send you that in the email following this so you can take a deeper dive into the specifics of where you need to for your brand. But for today, I'd love to at least impart some of the recommendations that we give our clients to get you guys started. For Facebook, you'll want to stick to 1 to 2 posts per day. You don't want to post much more than that, or you'll start to feel spammy for people. Even if you're not licensing a social scheduling tool, Facebook actually gives you the opportunity to schedule right within your platform, so you have absolutely no excuse to forget about it. For LinkedIn, we suggest that you aim anywhere from 3 to 7 posts per week here. Twitter needs a little bit more action. To be successful here, we recommend you aim for at least 3 tweets per day. Some research says there's no maximum number of tweets, as it's often said that on average, a tweet only lives for about 11 minutes before it's skimmed past and people don't go back to it. But I don't know about that 100%. Again, you don't want to spam and appear desperate. But if you're sharing tweets with a lot of value, then you're probably okay to up that frequency. Instagram often gets forgotten about because there aren't any really good scheduling tools that let you schedule it and forget about it. And prepping good visual content also takes a lot of time. We say aim for about 3 to 7 posts per week on this platform to stay front of mind in front of your market. For Pinterest, try to pin and repin 10 or more pieces of content a week, and try to aim to create about 1 new board per month. If you're using any live video like Snapchat or Instagram stories, you want to share at least a few times a week, and each of those shares could consist of multiple stories that roll up together to tell one big story. Google Plus is an interesting one, and most experts say these days using Google Plus really only has SEO value for your brand. Certain scheduling tools allow you to syndicate content when posting to 2 networks or more simultaneously. So this can be a really good approach for this network when playing with this platform. Try syndicating with your Facebook or your LinkedIn posts maybe, and this way you don't have to invest too much time or energy into this platform that may or may not have a huge return for you, but you're still at least doing something there. YouTube is a tricky one because, as we know, creating videos worthy of sharing takes a lot of time. Most importantly, if you're going to really focus to execute on YouTube for your brand, you should develop a regular schedule. For instance, posting on the same day every week. This way, subscribers know what to expect and will actually come looking for that content every week to tune in. While these are all suggestions to get you started, I would argue that there's no exact right answer here, but that each platform and each brand as well is going to be a little bit different. The key here is to try different things and, again, track and measure what works best for you. Which brings us to the final piece of the equation here. Now that you know what you're going to do on social, where you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it, you need to figure out if you have, in fact, been successful. Tracking and measuring is very, very, very important piece of the puzzle. So right now in your notebooks, write this down and circle it twice. There are lots of options for how you can track, lots of different analytics solutions out there to use. You can do some research and compare and see what best meets your needs and your budget, because this can tend to get pricey, but you can also do it fairly easily on your own and for free. Each platform will give you some kind of analytics within it at no cost. So there's no excuse not to be checking in on your work. Regardless of how you decide to find this information, there are a few key metrics that I would recommend tracking when you get started. The first one here is growth. It's always something good to keep an eye on. This basically means how many people are following you, because once they follow you, they are more likely to see your content. And that is a good thing, of course. Different platforms are going to grow at different rates, and different brands are going to see different growth rates as well. So there's really no specific number here that you should be aiming for each month. But what you do want to watch for is that your numbers are trending up. If you start to notice that your audience sizes are taking a downturn, time to tune in and closely look at what's going on and why these people are turning away. That's what you got to figure out. A little hot tip for you here. We always get asked whether or not brands, or anyone that for that matter, should pay for followers. Big question. You've seen all those services that do that, I'm sure. The answer again here is yes, but. Yes, but you have to be careful with which one you choose to go with. New followers and big audiences are awesome, but only if they're real people and only if they're the right people as well. A lot of these services just get bot accounts to follow you, not real people who are going to engage with your content or ever eventually buy from you. So what's the point? I mean, I guess there's a little bit of clout that comes to people landing on your profile and seeing those big, sexy numbers, but that's kind of where it stops. If you have targeted followers, a nice big audience who cares about your stuff and who's eventually going to buy from you, that is gold. We actually use a service called SoGrow for this, and we set all of our client accounts up on this, and it allows you to target followers based on profile keywords and comparable accounts. So it actually follows specific followers of competitors or anyone that we think fits our target market profile. And then ultimately they decide if they want to follow back or not. We'll tell you a little bit more about this tool at the end of the session here as well. The next metric you want to track is engagement. It's a very important stat. Again, growth is great, but if your new followers are not engaging with your content, you've got a big problem. Depending on the platform, engagement essentially means liking, commenting, or sharing your content. Something to demonstrate that they've noticed it, consumed it, and liked it. As far as engagement goes, likes are the lowest on the totem pole. Always good to have, but a quick and easy way for followers to do something. Commenting is a step up because not only did they like it, it spurred something in them to say something to you or to say something to someone else. It started a conversation. It was worth more time and effort to them, and yay you if you can do that. And ultimately, the best thing that you can get, of course, is the shares, because that means people support your content so much that they want their entire network to consume it as well. So that's a great endorsement. The third thing that you're going to want to track here is conversions, and they're probably the most important thing to watch for. This is really what it's all about, what I hear brands say all the time that they really, really want to see with social media. It is also the hardest thing to get on social media because this type of marketing is a huge part brand awareness. Depending on the brand, though, and depending on how you define conversions, you can definitely expect to see some of this happen. B2B brands generally have a harder time getting people to convert to buy on social media because if you think about it, the decision to buy is usually bigger than just them, the cost is usually higher, and therefore more people have to be involved in that decision. B2C brands, if you have something smaller that you can just click and buy, it's a little bit easier. But getting your name in front of those people still counts regardless. If you have something that's easy to convert on social media, you might be more likely to see those click-buy conversions, because you have something relatively low cost or something that people don't have to put too much time or effort into thinking about before they buy, especially if you're offering a special deal or promotion, which can be really helpful in terms of conversions. But even if you can't find those buy conversions on social media, there are other conversions that are worth tracking. Maybe you're going to define conversions as link clicks to your site. That way you're saying social media did its job getting users to the site, and now it's the website's job to move them through that buying journey. That's really easy to track using Google Analytics. You can see exactly how much traffic comes from each social platform. And if you just define a specific conversion within Google Analytics as well, for example, landing on a specific landing page or registering for a webinar perhaps, or signing up to your mailing list, you can actually see this all broken out for you. Whatever you decide to track specifically for your brand, be sure that you're tracking it and you're doing it regularly. Do not forget about this. Otherwise, you could be back to spaghetti against the wall without even realizing it. Having a strategy is awesome, but if you don't check to see that it's working, it might be totally failing you and you won't even know. So that wraps us up. You've officially seen all of the components that go into a great social media strategy. Now, if this all seems a little bit overwhelming to you, do not stress out. We do have a few ways that we can help you. We offer custom social media strategies for $2.99, but for anyone that attended this webinar today, you can sign up and get one for just $2.29. So we're going to save $70 so you can put back in your pocket. All that requires from you is a 1-hour discovery call with us where we learn a little bit more about your brand, and then we'll do all that heavy lifting and deliver your strategy to your inbox within 5 business days. You'll also get a list of helpful resources that you can use to execute your social media strategy, a handy checklist that will help you manage, and a bunch of other things. We really want to set you up for success here. Now, if you're really keen to build this out yourself, that's awesome. But if you feel like you're not quite ready after this webinar to get started, well, we have a workshop for that. We are actually offering 2-hour workshops on how to build a social media strategy with dates in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Kelowna, and even Boston. We'll take what you learned today and get deeper and more hands-on. We will talk through all the specifics. We'll actually help you work through each component of this and get it all plugged into a nice template, which we will provide for you. And it won't stop there. We'll make sure that you have success with checklists, resources, and lots of hot tips from our team. If this sounds like something that really interests you, now is your chance. We have early bird pricing on right now for just $99. You can find a list of events on our website and register right there as well. And of course, if you feel like you just want to outsource social media fully, beyond just the strategy, get in touch with us and we can chat about what your needs are and put together a custom proposal for you. Now, as I promised earlier on, you are all going to get an email following this presentation with some more goodies for you. Some blogs and recommended additional reading, links to the tools that we love that will make your life a little bit easier when you're managing all of this, and some more information on how to sign up for a workshop if you would like. And of course, how to take us up on this awesome offer for the social media strategy. But we also have one more thing for you today. Every single one of you that have registered is going to get a special promo code for 25% off community growth at SoGrow. It's the least we could do to thank you so much for joining us today. Now we have a little bit of time here. It looks like I'm just about right on the mark. So I want to make sure that we go through some questions. So I'm just going to dive in and have a quick look here to see if we have anything asked. Looks like we are question free. Hopefully I've answered everything. I'll give you guys just another second here in case there's anything that you want to submit. Okay, I see a question here from Ryan. When are Boston dates? So our Boston dates are posted actually, and they are in the beginning of October. So I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say October 4th, 5th, something like that. So if you're interested in that, let us know, and we can definitely make sure we have a spot for you. We are possibly refining some of those dates, so keep us posted. And if you have any opinions on what dates you prefer, we're still in those early stages where we might be able to make some shifts. So definitely let us know, Ryan. Anybody else have anything for me? Okay, well, we will wrap up here then. Again, watch for your emails. And if you guys have any other questions after the fact or want to connect with us, just go ahead and do that on our social media handle on Twitter at media_mad, or of course, send us an email to info@mad-media.ca. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in.